Before we begin, we advise viewers to consider carefully. The following content is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is the exact testimony from the federal court trial of Sean Diddy Combs, reported by Inner City Press. Inside the courtroom, there were no cameras, no live TV coverage, and no reporters snapping photos from the gallery. But what really went down inside that federal courtroom, the words spoken behind those heavily guarded doors, sent shockwaves through every corner of Hollywood. Jamie Foxx, one of the most respected and talented artists of our time, had just taken the stand. And according to those present, he wasn't acting at all. His hands were shaking, his voice choked with emotion. Then suddenly, he broke down, sobbing and yelling before the jury as he recounted what he had witnessed on a fateful night inside Sean Diddy Combs' mansion. Leaked notes from the trial transcripts, combined with detailed sketches and witness reports, paint a horrifying picture. This was not the Jamie Foxx the public thought they knew, the confident, charming, unshakable entertainer. This was a man haunted by demons. As his words poured out, everyone in the courtroom sat frozen. It wasn't just what he saw, it was how it had been hidden. Everything seemed orchestrated, protected, and for years, no one dared to speak up. The connection between Jamie Foxx and Sean Diddy Combs had been documented for years. In public, they often laughed together, exchanged friendly words at after-parties following award shows, and even posed for photos showing off luxury, brotherhood, and power. But according to leaked notes from the first week of the federal trial, that brotherhood was just a mask, a carefully crafted illusion shattered on the night Jamie accepted an overnight invitation to Diddy's infamous mansion. In his emotional testimony, Jamie began by explaining their relationship. "We all wanted to be part of that circle," he said. "Diddy's house was where the music, deals, and energy existed, like stepping into a palace of influence." But what Jamie didn't realize, according to his sworn statement, was that some parties weren't for celebration, they were for initiation. That night, Foxx recalled being led into a private part of the mansion after an evening of heavy drinking and lavish relaxation. There were people he didn't recognize, people who weren't artists, producers, or executives, and they seemed uneasy. His voice reportedly dropped to a whisper. "They told me to stay, relax, that Diddy had a surprise." He described how the atmosphere shifted, the lights dimming, laughter fading, and guests breaking off into smaller, more secretive rooms. One of Diddy's assistants reportedly escorted Foxx to a soundproof screening room inside the mansion, where a pre-arranged video awaited. "I was confused. I didn't know what was going on. They said this is where we bond." Foxx said what happened next broke him mentally for years. "It was unlike anything I'd ever seen. I didn't know if it was real or staged, but I knew how it made me feel. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen. I didn't know if it was real or staged, but I knew how it made me feel. My stomach tightened. I stood up. I wanted to leave, but the door was locked. They told me to watch and said, 'Anyone with experience has been through this.'" According to a reporter who spoke to someone present at the trial, Foxx's story sent chills through the courtroom. Foxx reportedly paused, took a deep breath, and said, "I never wanted to see that, and since then, I've spent every day trying to forget it." According to transcripts, the judge called for a 5-minute recess so Foxx could compose himself. After the break, Foxx returned to the witness stand with red-rimmed eyes and trembling hands. The courtroom fell silent again, and what followed was described as a severe unraveling of Hollywood's most whispered-about secret protecting power at all costs. Jamie recounted, "When I tried to leave that night, they handed me a drink, saying it would calm me down. I didn't drink it. I just said I had to go. I remember Diddy looking at me coldly, like he knew what I saw but didn't care, like it was all part of the plan. But the emotional damage wasn't what hit the court the hardest. It was the fallout." Foxx claimed that in the days that followed, calls started coming in. They weren't exactly threats, just reminders to stay silent, keep your distance. "They offered me a deal, an NDA wrapped up in a seven-figure check. He refused, but said that's when the pushback began. Foxx testified that in the years after, he faced a steady drop in big film offers, unexplained delays in project funding, and alienation from producers who once called him a star. It was cold, quiet but very real, and I knew why. The trial transcript quotes him saying, "I watched my career disappear. People who ask questions just vanished from the conversation. Not dead, just erased." Then he went on to describe how other celebrities confided in him over the years. People with similar experiences, but too afraid to speak out. "You think I'm the only one? You think I'm brave? I'm not. I'm just tired." A heavy sigh echoed through the gallery as Foxx named 3 other famous artists he said were at that mansion during similar parties. These names were redacted in the official court transcript, but multiple sources say one was a Grammy-winning rapper, another a beloved late-night host, and the third a well-known actress active in social causes. Foxx closed this part of his testimony with, "We smile, wear suits, sunglasses, but behind that, many of us are broken. There are some things you just can't unsee." The courtroom grew heavier as Jaime Foxx leaned forward to explain the darkest part of his experience. Not just what he saw that night at Diddys' mansion, but what he learned afterward. What started as a disturbing, surreal encounter turned into something deeper, more calculated, and far scarier than he ever imagined. This wasn't just a strange party or a few inappropriate incidents. It was about systematic control, leverage, and blackmail. Jaime's tone shifted from emotional to analytical as he spoke about the existence of a hidden archive, a stash of digital recordings stored on a private encrypted server somewhere on Diddy's estate. He hasn't seen the room himself, but said several insiders, including a former house manager and 2 security guards who have since vanished from the public eye, confirmed its existence. They described it as a full surveillance hub with monitors, secure hard drives, and lockers only a select few can access. "They keep everything," Jaime said, pausing to let the words sink in. "Not just clips of people partying. They filmed things they knew no one would want made public. They recorded without consent, hidden cameras, some in bedrooms, others in hallways, bathrooms. People had no idea. You'd think it was just one crazy night. But what you don't know is there's always someone recording." He explained the collection wasn't just a hobby or a trophy room. According to him, it was a form of secret currency. Footage of celebrities, politicians, executives, athletes. Jaime said many of them had no idea they'd been filmed in compromising positions. Some were drunk, others involved in acts that could only be described as disruptive or non-consensual. He added it wasn't just about watching, it was about owning people, making sure no one could fight back. Insurance policy. Foxx recalled the moment a few months after his visit to the mansion. A package was delivered to his production office, written in sharp black marker. Inside was a flash drive and a distorted video, grainy footage of the screening room where there was no return address, just his name written in sharp black marker. Inside was a flash drive and a distorted video, grainy footage of the screening room where Jaime had been that night. His face and reactions were captured by a hidden camera. The angle clearly showed he had no idea this was coming. There was no sound, just his expression as he watched what was playing on the screen. The drive showed a black screen with one phrase, "Remember this." Foxx said he stared at that screen for over an hour. He didn't sleep that night. I think it was a warning. He said, "Someone told me. We see you. We own your silence." And honestly, after that, I kept quiet. I didn't know who to trust. Every time I saw a new story in the headlines, someone else accused or some mystery figure stepping away from the industry, I wondered if they had been recorded too. He accused that these archives were exploited over and over, used to block lawsuits, silence accusers, even force people who'd cut ties with Diddy to publicly confirm or support him. Some of the friends you see out there defending him, Jaime said they don't defend him because they like him. They defend him because they're scared, because they don't want their tapes exposed. One of the most damning moments in the testimony was when Jaime described a midnight call he got from a famous actress who had also stayed at that mansion. He didn't reveal her name in court, but described her as someone America saw as a sweetheart. She was crying. She said she'd received a video showing her unconscious with someone hovering over her, a person she didn't recognize. She was panicked. She didn't know if things had gone further. She didn't know if anyone would believe her. And I didn't know what to say to her, Foxx admitted. The judge called for a recess after this segment, apparently worried about the emotional toll on Foxx, who was visibly distressed. Before stepping down to break, Jaime left one last cold remark. They didn't just collect secrets, they created silence. They built a cage made from your worst moments, and then they hold the key. By this point, the mood in the courtroom had completely shifted. This wasn't just about one man's crimes. It was about the power of a sprawling system built on manipulation, fear, and control. And the longer Jaime spoke, the clearer it became that Diddy's empire, if it truly exists, wasn't built just on music or business deals. It was built on leverage, the kind that destroys more than just careers, a way to end a life. When the trial resumed after a short break, Jaime Foxx returned to the stand, clearly shaken but more determined. What he said next stunned the courtroom into silence. He recounted that weeks after receiving the flash drive, two men approached him outside a restaurant in Los Angeles, dressed like security or bodyguards. They didn't reveal their identities. One of them handed him a phone, saying someone wanted to talk, then stepped back. On the other end was Diddy, his voice calm and measured. Diddy didn't threaten Jaime outright, but what he said sent chills down his spine. "I hope you're not planning to say anything you'll regret, my friend," Diddy reportedly said. "That kind of stuff can ruin a legacy. You're a legend. Jaime, don't throw that away over something that's not your business." It wasn't just words. It implied Diddy was watching him, that he could reach him anytime, anywhere. Jaime testified that after the call, he kept looking over his shoulder. He changed his phone, canceled appearances, and started moving with personal security. He said he believed it was no coincidence that right after this encounter, a story surfaced on a gossip site implying Jaime was involved in a scandal he insists was fabricated. It was a warning. He told me, "They can spin a lie about you as fast as they can destroy you with the truth." In court, Jaime explained that Diddy's world wasn't just about fame and wealth. It was about surveillance, silence, and power. He described how party guests were often asked to hand over their phones, supposedly for privacy reasons. But after what he went through, Jaime said he believed those phones were copied. He claimed insiders told him messages, contacts, even voicemails were copied and stored. "People think the danger is what they did at those parties," Jaime said. "But the real danger is what they took from you, your data, your voice, your fears." A prosecutor presented evidence of NDAs signed by dozens of famous guests at Diddy's estate parties. These documents were more aggressive than typical confidentiality agreements. Some included terms forbidding any negative experiences or stories from being shared publicly. And Jaime confirmed he was asked to sign something similar. He refused, but said that's when everything changed. His brand endorsement deal started falling apart. A film project he was developing was suddenly dropped by the distributor. Studios stopped returning his calls. "It was like I got radioactive overnight," Jaime said. "I wasn't blacklisted for doing something wrong. I was blacklisted for not going along." The courtroom grew more captivated and horrified. As Jaime dug deeper into what he called the mansion's mechanism, he began describing specific rooms he was shown during overnight stays at Diddy's compound. Rooms that didn't appear on the blueprints. He recalled being led down a hallway behind a bookshelf opening into a surveillance control room run by two quiet men who never made eye contact. Jaime said this was no tour. It felt like an intimidation tactic. He testified that one of the men showed him a screen with feeds from all over the house bedrooms. Spa, private lounge. "I didn't ask to see any of it," Jaime explained clearly. "But they wanted me to know they had everything." He asked who had access to the recordings. The answer was simple, just one person, meaning Diddy. That night, Jaime was told his bedroom was down a different hallway from where the other guests stayed. He found it odd. The room was luxurious but cold, windowless, with a camera clearly visible in the corner. I didn't feel like a guest, Jaime said. I felt like a suspect in an interrogation room. He tried to sleep but couldn't. Around 2 a.m., he heard faint music and laughter. He stepped outside and saw a group in robes walking down the hallway toward the screening room. Jaime followed from a distance and witnessed what he could only describe as a ritualistic gathering. Guests were handed drinks, some blindfolded, some filmed. In the center of the room, Diddy stood, controlling everything with a smile. What disturbed Jaime most was the presence of the handlers, men who weren't guests, but facilitators. They monitored people, ensured cameras were rolling, whispered into ears. Jaime believes they weren't just filming, they were recording behavior for leverage. When the event ended, Jaime returned to his room but found the door was locked. Inside, everything was untouched except a photo of him and Diddy from years earlier, now lying on the nightstand. He swore it hadn't been there before. On the back was a handwritten note, Brotherhood. On his final day testifying, Jaime's emotional defenses completely broke down. His voice cracked as he described a visit months later from an FBI agent. This agent, who asked to remain anonymous and was said to have been investigating Diddy for years, reached out informally. According to Jaime, the agent claimed there were more than 30 sealed complaints involving misconduct, human trafficking, and extortion connected to Diddy and his associates. But none had been presented to a grand jury. Jaime asked why. The agent reportedly said, "He's protected, high-level connections. People in places you just can't believe." That's when Jaime revealed the most shocking information of the trial. He claimed the agent told him there were sealed documents hinting that a former U.S. president had attended at least one of Diddy's exclusive fundraisers, where it's believed surveillance footage was recorded. Jaime made it clear he didn't know if anything illegal happened, but he said it wasn't a coincidence that these high-ranking individuals avoided getting involved in the investigation. Jaime said the agent warned him, "If you go public, you're not just facing Diddy, you're facing the whole machine." He ended his testimony with tears streaming down his face, pleading not just for justice, but for the public to understand. This isn't about revenge, it's about stopping something that's been hidden for far too long. This is bigger than music, bigger than me, and if anything happens to me later, I want the whole world to know that I told the truth. As Jaime Foxx continued his testimony, he detailed a cold night during a visit he called the blackout incident. It wasn't just a metaphor. He described how around 2 a.m., the entire estate suddenly went dark. At first, Jaime thought it was just a power outage, but the timing felt off. The music stopped abruptly. The hallway lights flickered twice and then went silent. He remembered stepping into the hallway, the air turning cold not just from the AC, but from the tension hanging in the house like a thundercloud. Jaime said everyone was frozen in place. The mood shifted. No one was laughing. No one was talking. It was like they'd been through this before. A tall man in a suit, whom Jaime described as too serious for a party, came out of one of the rooms and said, "No phones, no cameras. Everyone go inside." Jaime, confused and worried, went back to his room, but curiosity got the better of him. He tiptoed down the hall, peeking through a cracked door where strange sounds were coming from inside. Whispers, clinking metal. Then a scream, a muffled scream. A man. He didn't say who he saw, but he confirmed what he witnessed was no party game and definitely not consensual. He saw shadows moving, people standing in a circle, and something that looked like someone tied up. He described a calm woman walking through the room with a small notebook, jotting something down. Then she saw him through the crack in the door. She didn't scream. She didn't alert anyone. She just smiled and slammed the door shut in his face. Jaime stumbled backward, dizzy. That's when I knew. He told the jury this was not a home. This was a theater, a stage where people were turned into props. Jaime's voice cracked as he recalled the final moments of his time there. The floor he was told not to go to unless invited. But while trying to find the bathroom and avoid the crowd in the hallway, Jaime accidentally opened the wrong door and found himself at the bottom of the stairs. The room was dimly lit by emergency red lights, with a faint buzzing sound coming from above. He swore he saw two people whispering at the top of the stairs. One of them looked right at him. "You lost, huh?" the cold man asked. Jaime apologized and turned back, but he had caught a glimpse of what looked like a thick black curtain or a bed sheet hanging in the hallway, and beneath it was a faint, flickering white light. "I knew that's where they kept the good stuff," he said with a bitter laugh. "Not fun stuff, but the good stuff evidence. Secrets. Control." Later, a friend told him the floor above was where the meetings happened. Jaime asked, "What kind of meetings?" The answer, "The kind where people give something up to get something else." That sentence haunted him for years. As Jaime Foxx's testimony was winding down, the prosecutor asked the question everyone was waiting to hear. "Why didn't you come forward sooner?" Jaime looked down, took a deep breath, and began. He admitted, "I was scared. It didn't fit my career. Forget that. I was afraid for my life, for my family, and for those close to me." You don't understand the reach of this man. It's not just the music, it's the silence. He makes people disappear, if not physically, then through connections, the industry, protection. Ask anyone who's tried. He recounted several cases over the years where people who tried to expose or challenge Diddy faced immediate consequences. Lawsuits, shutdowns, surveillance, or mysterious firings. He said they freeze you out. They don't have to kill you, they just erase you. But as the stories piled up Cassie's testimony, leaks from staff, a federal investigation, Jaime knew the time had come. "If I stay silent now, that means I'm complicit and I can't live like that anymore." His final words in court shook everyone. People think Hollywood is built on dreams, but the truth is, it's built on secrets, and this man has collected more secrets than anyone. I only hope speaking out will help break the curse he's placed on all of us. The judge called for a recess, and when Jaime returned to his seat, reporters noticed even some jurors wiping away tears. The silence that followed wasn't just from the courtroom. It was the silence of reflection, the kind that comes when a celebrity's world shatters and the truth has nowhere left to hide.